Hello, everyone, and welcome back to our third episode of the Philly Dogs podcast. I'm John,
I'm Peter.
as Peter, and we're the Philly Dogs. We appreciate all the support we've been getting. Right now, if I update it, we are at 472 views on our Super Bowl episode, which didn't think we'd be getting over 400 views on an
Sir.
hour-long podcast. We'll take it. We love the
Yo,
support. We appreciate every like, every view, every comment. Um, we're doing this because we love it. We're not getting paid to do it. We're not, we're just taking our free time because we love to do it. So thank you. We got a good episode for you to come in today. A lot of stuff, especially with the Eagles happening right now. We're gonna talk about the AJ Brown WIP situation. We're gonna talk about Chris Sims, Jalen Hurts, and the quarterback analysis that he's doing. We're gonna talk about the Phillies. Spring training starts tomorrow. We are recording this on Friday the 23rd. We will be posting this tomorrow. So you guys will be seeing this on Saturday the 24th. We're going to talk about the Sixers game last night and the game preview for tonight. And maybe we'll get into a little bit of MLB and NFL too. So good episode planned for you today. Thank you for all the support. And, we're going to get right into it. First up on the agenda today will be obviously the most important thing happening in Philly sports media right now. The AJ Brown situation. If anyone does not know what we're talking about, I will, we'll give a quick refresher. Yesterday, AJ Brown went on Twitter and typed or tweeted, Philly media is so lame. It's literally something every day. Then the fans believe in the BS. They really should start raising the prices of microphones and cameras because you people will say anything for views. I see why nobody likes us because we don't even like us. Hashtag reality TV. Um, then WIP responded underneath that, hey AJ, would love to have you on the show. He responded that he'd like to be on the show, and then they said send us a DM so we can schedule a time for you to be on the show. That apparently, I don't know if there was a definite time today, but then today AJ Brown in fact did go on WIP. I will read you guys some quotes that he said.
it was about an hour ago. It
Yeah,
was
he
like
got
an
on
hour.
right now. It's about 4 o'clock, so he got on around 3 o'clock. Um, with I think it was Joe Giglio and Hugh. Oh no, it was with Ike Reese. It
It,
was I
it
yeah
was
I
Fritz, Pete, and Fritz
Yep,
Reese, and Eskin.
yeah.
I don't think Eskin
So
was on.
they asked him about the locker room. He said the locker room is fine. Players just weren't executing. Media ran with the coaches and blamed the coaches. I'm not going to blame them. It was the players not executing. He also previously stated that whatever weekend it was, somebody did hack my Twitter account. I got my Twitter account back last night. That was totally me to confirm that that was him. Um, he also voiced his non-frustrations, if we want to put it that way. He said, and I quote, I want to be here. I had no problem. It's as simple as that. I love where I'm at. It's as simple as that. Next question. So kind of just flush the fact that he wants to leave. Um, he said, you see me getting upset on the sideline, you automatically think it's about targets. No, no. What if I'm holding my players accountable? What if I'm the guy who pushes everyone in the locker room? How about that? So, Peter, if you and one more thing before we go to Peter. He said they asked him about Jalen Hurts. He said, I don't want him to be nobody but himself because if he's not that, then he's not authentic. Peter, how would you evaluate AJ Brown's comments on WIP and how do you feel about him now? Now that he's finally voiced his opinion, now that we have like a true opinion on AJ Brown, it's no one was talking, he finally talks. He's kind of like the voice of the locker room right now. How would you um I guess your analysis on him?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's funny because I never like I know a lot of people kind of soured on him through the year because I mean he was so good in the beginning of the year, man. He was so good. I always thought he was great. He definitely wasn't as good towards the end of the year, but I think that was obviously a combination of things. But I love that he was willing to go on WIP and voice his opinions because I know yesterday Spike Eskin was like going off about it.
Yeah, I saw
Shout out
that.
Spike. Um, he was going off about it about how like you have to have the media like we're the people that pay your bills and stuff like that, like we're the reason that you're making all this money. And I personally don't think that that's why AJ was mad. I think it's more like the fake stories, especially about Jalen Hurts, because I know Jalen Hurts is like his best friend. And I know also that he really only wanted to talk to Ike Reese and not Jack Fritz. Supposedly he just like froze out Jack Fritz from the conversation, was like, I don't want to talk to you.
Yeah, I saw
So
because they were also saying yesterday that if he's going to call, the only time that he should call should be that afternoon hour with Ike Reese because Ike Reese gets him the most out of anyone. He does. Nobody wanted him talking to Joe Giglio or Joe DeCameri.
yeah, exactly. Exactly. No, I agree. I mean, I love that he came on and voiced his opinions. I mean, I feel like you got to do that, especially when at least he wasn't holding it in against the media. And I think he's a Philly guy, man. I really do. I mean, the fact that he's willing to do that, I understand it's really frustrating. I hate the Philly media as well,
It's the worst.
but it's he's a Philly guy, man. What do you think?
I 100% agree with everything he said. I mean, I think we all knew that he wasn't going to just out his teammates and out his coaches. That's not who he is. And we're not going to let one bad year kind of define this team. Yeah, it was a rough year for everyone. We started off 10-1, but everyone, we weren't playing our best football. We said that every week. Jalen said that every week. We're not playing our best football. Like we're still trying to, play to our best capability. And I think the frustration of the players, especially in the locker room, and then at the Niners game was kind of like the tipping point where 40 you went out 42-19 against your rival. And as much as people don't want to say they're our rivals, they're our rivals. Like it's 1-1 the last two times we played them. There's bad blood. They're our rivals. That kind of put everyone on edge, and that game kind of broke the locker room. So for him to go on and basically say,
Yeah.
excuse me, um, that like he believes in his players, he believes in the coaches, he's back in Jalen Hurts. That's what we want to see, and that he wants to play here, and that he actually wants to, be here. Not you don't hear him saying like, whatever happens, happens. If I'm traded, I'm traded. If I'm not traded, like he wants to be here. He's expressing that he wants to be here, and everyone's like, oh, the players like if the players can't handle the Philly media, they're not built for Philly. No, nobody hates Philly media more than Philly athletes and Philly fans. Like they're the absolute
Yeah.
worst. And there's a reason why 94 WIPs, every single one of their callers is like 35 and older because they're all the old people who don't know
Yeah.
what they're talking about. And, they get to voice their opinions. The 60-year-old Jim Bobs that call in about Jalen Hurts and they say like AJ Robinson. They don't even know their names. Um, those are the people that have their voice and their opinions heard on the radio, not their true fans that actually know what they're talking about. So I feel like this is really good. Twitter's been going nuts. I don't know if you've seen it. Twitter's been going absolutely ape shit. The last 24 hours over what AJ Brown said and about WIP, and the WIP hosts like Joe Giglio, Tom Kelly, Spike Eskin, they've been voicing their opinion back at the fans on Twitter, which I don't think you can do from a host perspective. I don't think you should be coming back at the fans. That's not really professional. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's been chaos the last 24 hours, but I'm glad that he went on and he voiced his opinion in a positive way about this team. And I feel better going forward than I did 24 hours ago about the whole Eagle situation, which
Yeah. I
brings
mean, I
us,
think it's cool to
no, you go.
I think it's cool to see that he's willing to stand up for
Yes.
especially like Hurts, because Hurts is there's one guy that's going to be scapegoated besides the coaches. It's going to be the quarterback, and I know like the whole like we literally talked about it last week about Jalen Hurts needs to show more emotion or be more of a leader, all that stupid stuff. It's like he's the face. So I think it's really cool to see AJ come out and be like we believe in him, which I think is big coming from top five receiver in the league.
Yeah. Arguably
So
the captain of your team, the way he's acted the last couple months.
exactly. So
I
yeah,
mean, everyone expects it. I heard this. I was listening to the radio yesterday. Everyone expects. Someone called in and was like, "Yeah, you don't expect the two voices of the team to be AJ Brown and Kelsey, the wide receiver in the center. You expect it to be the quarterback and then a defensive player. Because if AJ Brown's trying to fire everyone up, why is a defensive player going to listen to him? Well, because he just backed that defensive player in the locker room when they're scapegoating him. That's why. I don't think a captain necessarily needs to be a defensive player and needs to be the quarterback. We all know that Hurts Kelsey, AJ Brown, they're the voices, they're the leaders of the team. And yes, Hurts does need to voice his opinion more, but he does not need to smile and be more giddy. I mean, if he wants to, that's fine. But nobody was saying anything about it when we were winning games last year by 20, 30 points when we were in the Super Bowl. No one was saying anything. But the second that we start to, flounder and go lose 5 or 6, oh, it's because uh Big Dom isn't on the sidelines. Oh, it's because Jalen Hurts isn't showing emotion. They're blaming everyone but the actual players themselves, and they're not watching the games where we're missing every single tackle, where we're ankle biting, where we're giving up 3rd and 15. Like they're not actually watching the games. They're more focused. It's like WWE. They're focused on these little dramatic storylines rather than the actual players and the play itself. But and that
That's
leads
not.
and that leads us into what we were talking about before we, started this is Chris Sims and what's the other dude's name from I think it's like Jacob Sports or Jakob Sports. I
Yes,
forget
Jakib Sport. I don't know.
Jacob
Whatever
Sports,
it
yeah,
is.
whatever it's called. Um
Irrelevant.
yeah,
Irrelevant.
they're I mean, and I tweeted this on the Philly Dogs Twitter. People like Chris Sims who can't even call a play in the huddle should not be able to criticize arguably one of the top quarterbacks in the NFL, arguably the MVP last year if he doesn't get hurt in that Bears game, and someone who put up one of the greatest Super Bowl performances ever, one of the best quarterbacks in the league, like I just said. Chris Sims should not get a platform to say Jalen Hurts is the most overrated player in the NFL, that he's an all-star team around him, and then go and say Brock Purdy had a great Super Bowl performance. I mean, I don't want to say the R word, but that is blatant, kind of like, you know what I mean? It's just a little odd that he thinks Jalen Hurts has an all-star team and is overrated, but Brock Purdy isn't. Peter, I want to know your thoughts on Chris Sims and if he should have a platform to voice his I guess, irrelevant opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody deserves a platform to speak, even if you're an idiot. A couple of guys like us, we don't really have a
Yeah,
platform per se,
it's
but we're
growing.
talking
It's growing.
up, we're talking on here. So I mean, I feel like he's honestly just an idiot, and obviously he's pretty biased. I understand, like he did play in the NFL, although he wasn't very good. He did play in the NFL, so he like maybe knows like a little bit deeper into what he's talking about. But I don't think that just because he played that his opinion matters more than say me and you, because I think that it's obviously a bad opinion. I know that maybe he has an all-star team around him. I guess you could say that, but that doesn't mean that he hasn't been great. He had a worse year this year, but that doesn't mean that he's not a good player. I think a lot of it, like we talked about, stems from the offense. And I think that that stuff's going to change. And I think he's going to come out next year and be a lot better. I think so,
Yeah,
especially because they paid him
exactly.
to be that.
And I think in a
Gonna
lot
be
of cases, the quarterback's first year after they get paid, it's a lot of pressure on them. I mean, we'll see this year if he. I mean, he was coming off. He got paid. He lost in the Super Bowl. He had a new coordinator. Like, there's a lot of different moving parts.
he got all
Um,
the fame. I mean, he got all those
yeah,
endorsements. He had
the
everybody.
Jordan sponsorship, stuff like that. Like, I just think that this year he's gonna come out and say, you know what, F it. Like, I don't care what anyone says. I'm gonna like actually work on my craft. I'm going to prove everyone wrong and get back to the Jalen Hurts that like. I think he was just trying a little too hard to be perfect this year because he was afraid of what people would say. And
He was doing too much.
exactly, yeah, he was going back to that 2021 Jalen Hurts where he's extending the play for too long. He's not throwing the ball away when need be. He's forcing it downfield, trying to look for the one play touchdowns instead of just doing what 2022 did.
Not taking a check down.
Exactly. Take the RPO game, take the check down, take the guaranteed yards, make the smart play. You don't need all of it back in one play. Um, but yeah, I really do think people like Chris Sims need a reality check and they need to sit next to someone. I don't know what the NFL version of a JJ Redick would be. But whoever that is, like, it's not, obviously not Shannon Sharp or Stephen A. It's got to be someone that actually knows what they're
Brian
talking about.
Baldinger.
Yeah, Ryan Baldinger, someone like that. They need to sit down in front of and have a face-to-face conversation and have both provide facts and information about each side, and we'll see who wins. And I think Chris Sims loses any argument like that 10 times out of 10 to anyone who actually has a half a brain. Um, so that's the Jalen Hurts and that's the AJ Brown. That's the I guess the drama that's going around in the media right now. So now we'll get to something else. Today we learned that the cap space was going to get raised again. It already got raised. It's going to be, I don't know what the um I don't know if it was 30 million. I forget. So it's a record 255.4 million. Um
Wow.
yeah, that it's the biggest it's ever been. Uh and basically that means the Eagles now go to over 30 million just right now. Over 30 million without even cutting anyone. If you cut Byard, it gives you 43. If you extend Hassan Reddick, it gives you 50. If you cut James Bradbury after June 1st, it gives you around 60 mil. So you could do a lot. You could sign like either a great role player, like a great number three wide receiver. You could sign, you could sign T. Higgins. I don't know if T. Higgins
Or
wants
you
to
could
come here.
trade. I mean, you could trade
Exactly.
for like you could use some picks to get somebody who's already under contract and just take that hit on the cap.
Exactly. Like Pat Surtain. Like it's going to cost a lot to get a
Oh,
superstar like that, but you have the money to do it now. And that might only take up 35, 40 million. You have 20 million to spend for the year. Go get someone
yeah.
like Tranquil for 5 mil. Possibly if you don't want to
Yeah.
get him, you can get Patrick Queen for 11, 12 million dollars. Like you need to do something. And I think Howie, knowing that Howie, I think Howie sat down with someone, I forget who he sat down with, and he said that he didn't think losing, I was on WIP, he didn't think losing the linebackers was that important because he thought the linebacker play would be good with Nakobe, and then Nakobe gets hurt, and Cunningham had a good year. Um, but I think this year he's really going to settle in. Now that he has
Morrow.
Fangio, yeah, Morrow, just awful. Shaq Leonard, awful. So now that he has Fangio and Fangio emphasizes huge linebacker play and coverage, I think he will go out and be aggressive with the linebacker free agency and in the draft. Peter, do you think Howie is going to be ultimately aggressive in the point where he was like last year, or do you think he'll more so this past year where he's like, I don't really need to spend all this money right now. I can build a decent defense and rely because Howie's heavily offense. We know this. He loves his offense. What do you think Howie will do?
I feel like Howie just in general is not really one of those guys to pull like a Bill Belichick and go out and throw a bunch of money at free agents. I feel like he's one of those guys that will throw money at one or two free agents, not and get like a couple of other guys, but he's not going to throw a bunch of big contracts out. But I think like a guy like Devin White, who's a
Love
free
Devin White.
agent, uh, I think that could be good. I mean, but I personally don't think I see him spending big money on the linebacker position, unfortunately. But I think that he could go out and get another guy. I think that if they're gonna go out and spend big money, it's gonna be on corner or it's gonna be on defensive line.
Yeah,
Because I
he
think that's
loves
just
line.
philosophy. Yeah, I think that's just their philosophy. Um, like it or not, I think that's just his philosophy. But what do you think?
I think he's going to go out. I think he's going to get another edge rusher for depth because we are probably going to lose Brandon Graham. I don't see us resigning Cox either. I can see him going after someone like Andrew Van Ginkel because he was on
Yeah.
Fangio's scheme last year. I could see him getting someone like Tranquil. I don't see him paying someone like Patrick Queen. Even though that's the best linebacker that we could possibly get.
No
I
way.
do see him.
There's no way they pick.
Yeah, there's no way. I think he probably resigns in Baltimore, and I do think he will go after Devin White. Devin White's probably going to get $6.57 million. Not a top SA tier, linebacker, but he is that B mid B high C tier linebacker that does have something left in the tank that he can give you, and and then ultimately
He's
he's
not
gonna
as good as he used to be.
no
Uh,
no in no way. I mean that 2021 season that he had was amazing. Excuse me.
Still solid though.
Solid, and I think he'll rely heavily on the draft. But if I see Howie Roseman draft an offensive tackle in the first round, that is the most Howie Roseman thing to do. If I see him
That would be
draft
something
an offensive tackle in the first round, I'm gonna give up my fan card for the rest of the draft. I'm actually just gonna turn it off. I'll put on really anything else but that because that will just piss me off so much.
Man.
And I don't, the only two things I won't be mad at in the first round is if we go receiver or corner. Because we desperately need a good number three wide receiver. And this
I don't think
draft,
they go.
I think what
I
they
don't
could
think they
do
do
is they
it.
could trade back to the late first round, give up, like, I think, what are they, 21,
Yeah,
22, right? And trade back to late first round, like
I think so.
31, 32, get a third or fourth round pick
Yeah,
and just draft a receiver, or you can get Cam Kitchens if he falls, Armstead from Alabama, another one of those corners if he falls. Cooper DeJean, I mean, you're taking a chance on
yeah.
him too from Iowa. It's a big risk, but still, you could get someone late first round and trade back a couple slots. What do you think? What would you emphasize in the second round? What would you try to emphasize here?
I mean, I think it's tough to say it, and you disagree, but I mean, if you're going to go, I feel like offensive lineman, offensive tackle would not be a terrible way to go, especially because Lane Johnson's probably going to retire in a couple years. I think that's just a thing that Howie would do. I really think it's going to be that corner or defensive line. Like I said, like it or not, that's just what Howie does.
Yep.
And I feel like he could draft a receiver, but I think that Devontae and AJ Brown are so good that while they do need a number three, I don't think the need is enough for them to go out and use a first round pick on a number three receiver.
Yeah, I
Although it
agree.
would be awesome, I don't think that the need is there for that. I think there's a lot of other positions that they really, really are like they have a big need at. So I think I could see them going corner. I could see them going offensive line or D line. I don't think that Howie prioritizes safety enough. I don't think he prioritizes linebacker enough, and I don't think he will draft a tight end. Although he could get a tight end because think about it, maybe not first round, but if you look second round, they drafted Dallas Goddard when Zach Ertz was Dallas Goddard's age right now.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
So
Dallas Goedert is getting a little older. He's gonna need to get paid. I don't know if they'll pay him.
yeah.
I want to, but I don't know. And I don't know if he'll want to. I don't know if he'll want to stay here after this past year because like he should have gotten them. I think everyone can agree he should have got the ball a lot more this year. Like without a doubt, he's one of
Oh
the
yeah,
best tight ends
he
run
didn't get it
after
nearly
catch.
enough.
No, he's one of the best tight ends run after catch in the NFL. I think you need to force him the ball sometimes. He can make contested catches. He can, in the RPO game, he's amazing. Wide or tight end screen game, he's amazing. The reason I said go wide receiver in the first round is because I saw a couple mock drafts that had us taking um Keon Coleman, a wide receiver. I don't know where he's from. Very fast,
Florida State
Florida State.
dude's dude's
Very,
such a
I know,
tank.
very
He's
fast,
so
very
good.
physical, great wide receiver, and he reminds me of like not the way he plays, but the way we could put him in our system, like the Zach Pascal last year with the RPO game. It reminds me just like that. But yeah, I don't think if I were
You can't
Howie,
be using a first round pick on Zach
exactly,
Pascal. Just
exactly.
saying.
I that's why
Like I
I
know Zach, but
that's why I think that your best bet is going corner. Like I said, I won't be surprised if he goes tackle or left end or edge rusher because it is Howie at the end of the day. So I think we should go corner. Do you think we should go corner as well?
I think at this point you got to go corner. You got to go out and try and get a number one in the draft because Slay's old. I think you can probably keep him for another. I think he's what, one more year under
Yeah.
contract.
Well, yeah, one more year.
Yes. You keep him on this year and try and get another guy because Ringo was okay because he could probably be a depth piece.
Yeah, and he
Him
can play
and
slot.
Ricks were both good enough. Yeah, they were both good enough to be on the team and play next year. Maddox looks done.
You got to cut him. If you cut
And
him
like
after June 1st, you get 7 mil like in cap space. So you got to do that.
he might be one of those guys that you cut. So I think I really do think that they go out and get a corner. You have Eli Rogers coming in next year. That could be
Yeah, Isaiah
big for
Rodgers is
us.
a dog.
Isaiah Rogers, not Eli Rogers, wrong dude. But yeah, so I think that a corner would be big.
Yeah. Okay. So we're both in agreement.
Also, Rock Yasin, Temple alum,
Dude, the fall off
free
needs to be
agent.
studied. The fall off of
Yeah, yeah.
Rockets, and I remember Will was so hyped to get him, and he just fell off. But
He was okay on the Baltimore this year, at least. He was
yeah, I
okay.
mean, he wasn't drafted to be okay though.
Yeah, that's true.
Um,
That's true.
so we're both in agreement. Eagles should take a corner in the first round. Everyone, we haven't really said this, but Leave your opinions down below. I'll leave a timestamp here. Yep, down below. Um, what position should the Eagles draft in the with their first round pick? Should they trade it? Should they draft a corner? Should they draft a lineman? What do you think? Leave your comment down below. Um, and that'll take us into
I
our
was trying
next
to sh
segment. Yeah, that'll take us into our next segment, which we will talk about the Sixers and uh, their struggles recently. So stay tuned. Last night, the Sixers fell to the Knicks at home, 110-96, and kind of a one-sided game up until a little bit halfway through the fourth quarter, six or end of the third quarter until about halfway through the fourth quarter. Sixers made a little run, got it to within six, and then the known best player on the planet, Tobias Harris, comes into the game, and immediately we go back down by 14. Um, Sixers are now 3-10 in their last 13, 5-6 without Embiid. And in their last 10 games, they have the 25th best net rating and the 29th best defense. With Melton returning tonight,
Yeah.
Kyle Lowry out, playing the Cavs tonight in a back-to-back, coming off a loss to the Magic. What do you expect to, real quick, we're just going to talk about 5 minutes about the Sixers and then get into the NBA a little bit. Peter, do you expect the Sixers to win this game tonight on the second half of back-to-back?
Wait, who'd you say they were playing again?
The Cleveland Cavaliers, 36-18.
Oh, yeah. Uh, they did beat them. I mean, Cleveland might be back looking for blood
Yeah.
tonight after we beat them last time. I think the real issue is like I know that you're gonna talk about it. Is we don't really have a big guy in the paint. Like we said last week, Paul Reed is a backup center.
Yep.
Paul Reed should not be playing 30 minutes a game, so that's why he looks so bad. I understand that everybody hates Paul Reed now because how bad he's playing.
Dude,
But
I really started this whole agenda. I'm going to take credit for, like I said last week, I started the Paul Reed hate, and now it's gotten to a point where everyone is talking about it. So I just love it. But continue. Sorry for interrupting.
it's all good. I love Paul Reed, but it's more like he looks bad when he has to play that many minutes. And it would be cool if we did have a guy like Drummond, but at the same time, I think when Embiid comes back, nice photo, nice jersey swap.
Oh, yeah. It's a great jersey swap.
uh, I think when he comes back, it's going to be so much better because I feel like it's really glaring when Embiid isn't there, how the Sixers defense just falls off a cliff. The defense and rebounding, because
Second,
although
second
Embiid is,
worst defense in the league without Embiid.
yeah, I mean, their rebounding rate just falls, even though Embiid is not like a great rebounder by any stretch. But he gets at least like 10 rebounds a game, which would be a godsend for this team right
Yeah.
now. So and then when you have Paul Reed off the bench that can play like 15 minutes, that can just go hard for 15 minutes,
Yeah.
he looks much better. So I think that, and it would just, I wish that the third center was a guy like Jericho Sims, who played good last night for the Knicks, who
Who can
I've
just come
loved
in and
for
be
years.
physical and rebound the ball and be a physical presence. Like, not a great player, just a physical presence.
He comes in, he's physical, he rolls to the rim, he dunks hard, he plays defense, he rebounds. He's not a great player by any
Yeah.
stretch, but he dude had 10 rebounds last night
Yeah.
and five offensive rebounds
And
in
it would
18
come
minutes.
in those sets where we were down 10-11 in the first and second quarter, and they would miss a shot, and we'd have Nick Batum playing the backup five because Mo Bamba was unplayable, and they would just kick it out to a wide open Bojan or wide open Alec Burks, and they just hit a three. So after last night's loss, I don't think we'll win tonight. I think we get blown out. I think the Cavs come in, they shoot hot. I think Maxey was dead. Maxey played like 42 minutes last night. He missed his last like four threes because he was just exhausted. He played almost the entire fourth
Rip.
quarter. Yeah, front rim every shot. Tobias Harris, you know what? We'll say that for another episode, how I feel about Tobias Harris, because I want to say some things that I can't really say. And overall the depth of this team just isn't enough without Embiid and without players like Melton who can come in and give you a good defense, a good rebounding. So Melton returns tonight. We'll see what happens tonight.
Covington, another NBA
Yeah.
player.
He was supposed to be out for 2 weeks. He has now been out for over a month, and he will be reevaluated in 3 weeks from today. So that is also not good.
Covington.
Yeah, Covington. He's just, I don't know what to think with Covington anymore. I don't know what the spread is for this game. I think the last time I checked, the Cavs were favored by 7.5. I would check that real quick, but I would not be surprised if it was higher since, all right, it went down to 5. So pick of the day, Cleveland Cavaliers -5. I would hammer that. Um, Maybe put your
Yeah,
entire
yeah.
life savings on it. There's not a shot in hell that the Sixers come out and play like a good basketball tonight. Um, so yeah, any closing thoughts? We're just gonna shift from the Sixers to the NBA because we spent a lot of time last week talking about the Sixers and we want to get into some NBA stuff. So Peter, any closing thoughts about the Sixers and the game tonight?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, it was definitely a tough watch. I'm not gonna. Kyle Lowry came
Yeah,
in and looked
that's
good.
one thing we forgot to talk
Um,
about. 10 points plus 4 highest in the team last night.
yeah, he was good last night. I think it's cool to see Batum back. KJ Martin looked better than Tobias Harris.
Yeah, I mean KJ Martin literally is better than
So,
I think my left hand is better than Tobias Harris. So
uh, so yeah, I mean, tough game, but I think they just need to play a little bit better basketball going into when Embiid comes back because they got to stay out of that plan. So,
well, that brings me to this. We are 1.5 games behind New York now. They're the 4, we're the 5. We're only 1 game ahead of the Pacers, who's the 6. We're 1.5 games in front of the Magic for that play-in spot. We're 2 games in front of the Heat for the 8 seed, which is also a playing spot, and we're 6.5 ahead of the Bulls for the 9 spot. So I don't think we'll fall back to the 9 or 10 where it's like one and done. But I do think, like I said, you said 6, I said 7. Maybe even 8 now because of the way this team's just playing. Sometimes we just get into that little like spurt where we're just shooting early in the shot clock, really contested shots for absolutely no reason, and it's bad basketball. So. Um, that's our
tough.
segment on the Sixers for
It's a
today.
tough one.
Yeah, it's very tough. That's our segment on the Sixers today. So now we're gonna get into the NBA real quick.
All right, so second half of the NBA season, we're gonna get into a little bit of the Doc Rivers drama, because we hate Doc Rivers on this podcast, and just teams to look out for second half of the season, So, Johnny, what is your opinion on the Doc Rivers, JJ Redick, Pat Bev saga? A
I've
little
been
bit of
waiting.
Marcin Gortat in there.
Yeah, I've been waiting for this one. So I am a known. I know you are too. We are both known Doc Rivers haters. Um, I was ecstatic when he signed to Milwaukee. I thought that that was an amazing signing for literally anybody, every single team in the NBA except for the Bucks. Um, and now looking on it, they're 3-7 in their last 10. They're playing bad basketball. They have these 15, 20 point leads and they blow it. Literally just what we've seen for years with Doc here and in LA and in Boston. Um, Doc actually interviewed. I don't know if anyone has seen this. I know we did. Doc did an interview over the All-Star break. I forget who it was with. Um, and he
He was on
basically said,
Sirius XM.
yeah, Sirius XM, and that he said he didn't want the job and that he didn't understand why Adrian Griffin was getting fired, and that if he was going to accept the job, he wanted to do it after the All-Star break, and they still said no, like we want you to come in now. So basically just putting the blame on the front office, and then he blamed the players for like trying to get used to the system. Basically just doing what Doc does, blaming literally anybody on the entire face of the earth but Doc Rivers. Um Also Shaq, I don't know if anyone else saw this, it's on Twitter, it was like at the dunk contest, Shaq always holds his little selfie stick. Um, he said to Giannis, and I quote, F Doc, this is your team. You run it. So basically telling Giannis to just basically don't listen to what Doc says, and basically what we all know is that Giannis runs that team and runs that organization. He's literally doing what LeBron did for Cleveland in his first year in LA. Um, because we all know that it wasn't the front office that made the decision to cut and fire Adrian Griffin. It was Giannis. I mean, they were half a game out the 1 seed when they did it. playing great basketball,
Yeah.
and they just fired him for
It was
absolutely.
Dame. It was Dame and Giannis, I
I think it
think,
was a little bit Dame, but I think
combined.
it mostly was Giannis because Giannis thought like this is like outside of that one year where they won their injury ring when Kyrie, Harden both got hurt, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Budenholzer was not a good coach. We all knew that, and basically, I think he saw a little bit of Mike
I think he's a
Budenholzer.
pretty good coach. I mean,
I
I
think
kind of
he's
disagree. So Budenholzer was an okay coach. I think he was actually, I would go as far as to say Budenholzer was a good coach. Bud was more of the guy, like he had a good offense and defense. He kind of revolutionized the drop coverage and made
yeah,
Brooke Lopez into what he is now. But his big thing was he wasn't making changes, like he wasn't making adjustments in the playoffs. Like that was the issue. And I think the big thing with Adrian Griffin was so the big thing was he came in and wanted to switch their entire defensive style to kind of like the Raptors with Nick Nurse. And like they're flying around the floor,
yeah,
getting
literally
up in
just
people's
attacking
face.
people.
Yeah, playing really, really close. And I don't think that they like that. Their defense is not great. They were second with Adrian Griffin, but at the same time, like they were in a lot of really, really close games with teams like the Pistons, the Wizards. Like they were good, but I think they didn't feel like they were going to be able to win a title with Adrian Griffin.
Yeah,
And Doc Rivers was the only guy like hate Doc Rivers. I don't like Doc Rivers, but the one thing Doc Rivers can bring is professionalism to your team. Like he's like an NBA level coach.
yeah.
We know Doc Rivers like you're a professional, like you're a legit team when Doc Rivers is your coach. So I think that he came in and wanted to do that, but the fact that he comes in and is giving all these excuses like he didn't want to be there.
Yeah.
He came in there, one, he got a check. Two, he was like, "Oh, this could be like an easy ring for me with Dame and Giannis." I just think it's so dumb. Like specifically to what JJ said, talking about how he doesn't take accountability. Um, I think that he is one of those guys that is never ever going to take accountability for the things that he does wrong, and he never took accountability for any of the playoff losses in Philadelphia. Just like when earlier in the season, he gives a quote about his 3-1 blown leads,
Yeah,
and it
that
was
was
all like he literally he's spreading disinformation about his career. So I think overall the whole Doc thing, it's like, is this guy ever gonna learn? And I can't wait to see them lose in the playoffs and see that guy's stupid
I
face.
think they lose in the first round. That team is so dysfunctional right now. A
Hot take.
hot take,
Hot
but
take.
if the season ended right now, they'd be playing the Pacers. And the Pacers, they do not like the Pacers. You know, that was the Giannis game ball scenario. That was um if you saw the JJ Redick podcast with Tyrese Halliburton, I watched that episode. Tyrese Halliburton was talking shit to the Bucks. And
Their games are chippy, man.
yeah,
Their games are
uh
really chippy.
he was talking that ish to
It's
the Bucks at on
yeah.
the in-season tournament game when they beat him in the semifinal or yeah, in the quarterfinals. He was talking to the bench
Yeah.
and uh what's the guy's name that co-hosts with JJ Redick?
Tommy Alter.
Yeah. Tommy was sitting behind the bench for that game and he was like, "No, I heard what you were saying." And then Tyrese Halliburton started laughing. So they definitely are chippy. And I think that is a series that if I mean, Pacers are number one in pace in the NBA. They are a fast team and they
Yeah.
can run that team off the court if they really want to. And if they start hitting their threes, they can run that team off the court because what is the number one thing that the Bucks love to do and Doc Rivers loves to do? Play in the half court set. Doc Rivers, I don't think there's a coach that I know, maybe Boston, that loves to play in the half court set more than Doc Rivers. Just we were number one when Doc Rivers was here last year and the year before. We were number one or the second worst team in transition offense and transition defense. That's just one thing we don't do with Doc Rivers. So I think if the Pacers match up against them,
Also have James Harden on our team.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But I think if a team like the Pacers or if Milwaukee drops down to 4 and matches up against someone like us or the Knicks, I think they lose
Yeah.
first round. I think Milwaukee essentially needs to get that 2 seed if they want a chance at because then they'd be playing like the Magic or the Bulls. So um
Yeah.
what would be your
I'd
one
agree.
team
I'd agree.
to what would be your one team to like look out for? Like mine is obviously the Pacers. I'm a huge Pacers. Like if there's one team in the Eastern
You like
Conference that I
your
would,
pick?
I love Tyrese Halliburton, and I've loved him ever since he got drafted by the Kings. What's one team that you would look out for? I did the East. You go the West. What would be one team in the West you'd look out for?
Uh, I'm gonna say two teams I think coming into the rest of the season. I'm gonna say Dallas because Dallas has looked awesome with those
Yeah,
two additions with PJ and Daniel Gafford. But also, I think New Orleans is really coming on strong. 34 and 22. I feel like they're really flying under the radar. There's a bunch of really, really good teams in the West, and I think that those two are just like people don't really talk about because Phoenix is the 7. Phoenix could also go on a huge run. Like the West is super, super interesting this year. But I think specifically Dallas because I think Daniel Gafford is a huge pickup, and I think it's a little bit underrated about
yeah.
how
We've
how
seen it
good
already.
he, yeah, how good he's gonna be with specifically Luca because Derek Lively's been good, but Daniel Gafford is um
Experienced vet.
he's more a veteran. He's an experienced guy, even though he hasn't really played on winning teams. He's an experienced dude. So I really think that they're a big team, and with New Orleans, I think that like they're playing Zion Williamson at point guard.
Yeah, I know. I saw that.
Crazy. He's bringing the ball up. I mean, Ingram's awesome. They're a really deep team. I mean, they have Grand Theft Alvarado coming off
Yeah.
the bench, Trey Murphy,
McCollum.
Jones, yeah, Dyson Daniels. I mean, they got a bunch of size. So I think
Yeah.
they're also a nightmare matchup to play in the playoffs.
Both
So
those teams are 8-2 in their last 10, and Dallas has not lost a game since they got Daniel Gafford. They've won 7 straight. So, I mean, that just
yeah,
goes to tell you that adding size to your team will help because it's the one thing that Dallas did not do for the last couple of years is they've had like
yeah,
Maxi Kleber start at the 5 a couple games. They had JaVale McGee come off the bench as their backup center like in 2023 and
yeah.
2022. So I think if I were gonna pick one sleeper, I think I'd pick New Orleans out of the West. Um, I know they killed the Clippers a couple games ago. Um, Zion looks really good. He's in real good shape. CJ McCollum looking really good, shooting efficiently. Um, but yeah, I think that like Minnesota and OKC like aren't as
Yeah.
good as the record shows. Like if they go up against a team like
Oh,
now if Minnesota or OKC goes up against like a Denver in the playoffs, I don't think they I think
well,
Denver obviously I think Denver might win 4-1. Same with the Clippers. The Clippers now the way the Clippers can win is if James Harden plays aggressive. Every time James Harden just wants to be a good teammate, because like, he has that kind of like agenda on him right now where he's
like
selfish
a
and
facilitator.
he is a great facilitator, but oh, he's like if he takes a shot, it's always selfish, and if he passes the ball, it's always passive. I think he just play his game. The Clippers are 14-2 when James Harden passes the ball or has 10 assists or more in a game. That's kind of the key. Paul George needs to relax a little bit. Clippers are my second team since I'm a big Harden guy, so I do watch their games. Um, Paul George sometimes just gets into that mode where he's like shot chucker, like just takes like
Yeah.
the most contested shots, tries to play hero ball. When you have Kawhi and you have Harden and you have guys like Norman Powell who can space the floor as a good like shooter, um, and
He's a
you
good
have
scorer in general.
yeah, exactly. He's like an Alec Burks, but like a better version of Alec Burks. And
Way better of Alec Burks, but
yeah,
good. Yeah, okay,
like
comparison.
I think they have like the same body type, same kind of like play style. He plays better. And
A little
the
bit.
key I think that the Eastern Conference, my predictions on the Eastern Conference Finals will I think I go Boston and I go Boston versus New York. And for the West, I'd go
Okay.
Denver versus the Clippers. I think that's the West.
Okay.
What would
Yeah.
your
Okay.
conference
I
finals
mean,
predictions be?
you put me on the spot here, but I'd probably go Boston. Boston's probably going to be in it. I'm going to go Boston. Boston, New York. I mean, at this point, New York's playing great basketball, and they
Yeah,
got a bunch of really, really good role players. And then in the West, I'm gonna go.
tough. It's tough. I mean, they're deep. Like 1 through 8 is so deep.
I'm gonna go OKC,
Hot
and I'm
take.
gonna go. This is right now. This is
All
right
right,
now. Currently, I might be wrong. We'll go OKC and LA.
all right.
I love Denver. Denver's great, but I
Not their
think
year.
that OKC really pose problems for them. Um, Especially because they play really, really fast and Jalen Williams is really coming on right now. Um, so hey, ask me again towards the end of the season because this could look bad.
All
Uh,
right.
but
I
well,
just don't think
we're
OKC
sticking.
has um the experience and the depth. SGA in the playoffs and in like 15 games, he's averaging like 13 points a game. We have not seen like prime SGA yet, though. That's the thing. We
Hey,
saw like young Clippers, and
that's
it's way different. But
yeah.
I need to
It
see
was rookie
SGA.
SGA.
I need to see SGA in like an actual playoff environment where he's the number one option to see if he has it. Like if he could step up and rise up to that
Let
moment.
me tell you why. Let me tell you why SGA. I
Tell me
think
why. Tell
SGA
me
is good
why.
enough because
Enlighten me.
his game really translates well to the playoffs because he's not a guy that's shooting a bunch of threes. Like he's a guy that can beat anybody off the bounce. He's a great mid-range shooter. He can
Triple
get to the
threat.
rim whenever he, which is like that's a playoff skill set right there. And I think Jalen Williams is poised to have a breakout like playoff run. And I think Gordon Hayward was a good pickup. I think that they
Leadership,
still need a
veteran
center.
presence.
Yeah, they still definitely need another center, like a big guy, um, like a Jericho Sims getting shout out twice in one pod. But I mean, I like I really like the OKC, and I think that the Clippers could get there because their offense is really really interesting. I saw this one dude.
Real quick, you know who the Thunder just signed that could be like a good backup big man for them? They just signed him. Bismack
Uh,
Biyombo.
I mean, all right, he's okay. I mean,
He's a little
he's
small, he's a little washed, but I think if he can just give him like 10 minutes, like not even 10, like literally 5, 7 minutes in the playoffs, give him like 4 or 5 rebounds. He just needs to be physical. Like that's what he is. Like I'm not saying he's
yeah.
Andre Drummond by any means, but just I mean, he's like 6 foot
Nobody's on.
eight. No, no one. Andre Drummond is like literally God. Like you can't beat Andre Drummond. But I think that is a good veteran leadership. Now you have him, you have Gordon Hayward, you have like more veterans on your team rather than all like the young culture is great. Like it is great, but you need a little bit of veteran leadership to guide you and like tell you things that you don't already know, like what's coming in front of you in the playoffs and stuff like that, what to
Yeah.
expect. So that's where I think I don't think OKC gets out the second round. Right now they're what
Oh,
they're the two. Yeah, they're the two. Minnesota's the one. They would match up against Phoenix. I think Phoenix beats them in a 7 game series. I think that Phoenix has been there. They already have experience. They have depth. They have like Frank Vogel is coaching really well this year, even though like Booker and Katie have been hurt several times. Beal has been hurt almost every freaking game. Um, if they do somehow, some way beat um the Suns in the first round, or the Kings. They'd get one of those two. They'd match up against the Clippers or the Mavs in the second round. So that's what I'm talking about. It's kind of like a gauntlet in a way. Like you get either the Kings or
yeah.
the
I mean,
Suns, and then you get the Clippers or the Mavericks. Like it's pick your poison here.
yeah. I mean, the West is so deep. Like literally, the Golden State Warriors, who are playing amazing as of late, are 28 and 26,
Yeah,
and the Lakers are 30 and 7 at the 9 seed. So, and Sacramento's 32 and 23 at the 8. Like
yeah.
they have the same record somewhere at the 5. So I think the West is really a gauntlet right now. Anybody could come out. I just picked those two teams because I like them. Honestly, I mean, I could see anybody
No
coming
shame in
out.
it.
Yeah,
One through
it's a
10,
bloodbath.
like 1 through 10 is absolutely insane. I didn't realize how, the records matched up like that. Like you look at our 7, 8, 9, 10, it's Orlando, Miami, Chicago, Atlanta. And then you look at them, it's Phoenix, Sacramento, Lakers, Golden State. Like
Yeah.
that's they could arguably be 4, 5, 6, 7 in our conference. So
Yeah, and Utah and Houston are tough. Like they got a bunch
yeah,
of really,
Utah's
really
pretty
good
tough too.
teams in
They're
their
pretty
conference.
deep. But yeah, those are our NBA predictions.
They're
Obviously
not gonna
no, they're not gonna they won't make the play or anything, but those are NBA predictions. Peter's got OKC versus LA in the Western Conference Finals. I got LA versus Denver. He has, and we both have New York taking on Boston in the Eastern Conference Finals. So we're gonna shift that and we're gonna move into just a little bit of the Phillies. Not much to talk about, but just a little bit here. So all right, so as you guys can see, I am all Phillied out today. Peter's got the blue on too, supporting it. Um, you know, exactly, love it, love it. Tomorrow, Phillies will play in their first. I think they play two games tomorrow, inter squad, one to the Grapefruit League, one to the Grapefruit League, one to the Citrus League. Um, Aaron Nola will be on the bump tomorrow. Probably only going 1 or 2 innings, nothing crazy. I mean, Joe Musgrove, the Padres' number two pitcher, just threw for not even 1 inning yesterday, gave up like 6 runs to the Dodgers. So don't want something like that happening. But uh, outside of that, spring training's a weird time period because like you can't really get into the games all that much. It's kind of like any other preseason where you can't really get into the games that much, but you want to watch because you've been waiting a while for the team to play. Um, and
Yeah.
other news, Jordan Montgomery, Blake Snell, Cody Bellinger. Let me just do a quick refresh just to make sure nothing happened while we're recording this. As of now, none of them have been signed. Yeah, still none of them have been signed. So I would like the Phillies to get another starting pitcher. Um, and other news, I would also like them to possibly trade Taiwan Walker. Someone like Emmanuel Clase, on only like a $6 or $7 million payroll. Uh, had like a 3.2 ERA last year, had like mid ones in the last 2 years, reliever of the year a couple of years ago, all second team MLB. Like that's someone who this team needs. I'm just rambling off stuff right now because there's not really a lot to talk
Yeah.
about the Philly season because it's not really fully here yet. We're just kind of getting into it. So we're just talking about some rumors. Quick little 2-3 minute segment. Um, but yeah, Noel going on the bump tomorrow. I know Bowen was supposed to play, but he's out with neck spasms. Um, Hopefully that's okay. Marsh had a knee procedure done a couple of weeks ago, so he should be good for opening day. He's just kind of ramping back up, getting more strength and more mobility. Um,
Is question, is Classe a closer?
yes, he's a closer. He's arguably the best
Okay.
closer in the
So
MLB.
you
Like
okay, so
I,
you
I don't
think that
believe in I don't believe in Orion Kirkring. No, not one bit.
I was just about to say
I
that
know. I
I
read your
believe in
mind.
Orion
I know. I read your
and
mind.
I love Kirkering. And
And this just came out a video of him pitching to Kyle Schwarber and Trey Turner the other day. He has good stuff, but he in a playoff atmosphere with the best hitters in the league, he has a sweeper, a two seam, and a four seam. Essentially what Craig Kimbrell had. So he has three pitches. He doesn't have a changeup. He doesn't really have a curveball because that sweeper is more of like a cutting slider, and he
yeah,
throws a fastball. So I mean, I think you do like pitchers like Josh Hader. He has three pitches. He gets away with it, but he also has electric stuff. Orion Kirkring going into his first year as a full-time closer, we're kind of asking a big burden on him to fill Craig Kimbrell's shoes, to fill Sir Anthony's shoes from 2 years ago. I don't trust him as this young of a player. Now, you got to give him experience. I would rather go to someone who is 25 years old, has experience, is a reliever, American League reliever of the year, all MLB team twice, multiple time All-Star in his last couple of years. Someone that I know that if he's coming into the ninth inning, even if it's a one-run lead, we're going to win that game 9 times out of 10. If you go someone, Ryan Kirkring, you're risking, him blowing the lead, throwing a walk, and then hanging a sweeper. Like, I just don't believe in him. But I know you're a big underdog guy. I know you love Johan Rojas. You love Ryan Kirkring. You love the underdog. Me, I'm more of a
wait,
get the guy.
what about Alvarado?
Alvarado is kind of transitioning into more of an eighth inning guy to where if we are tied or we have the lead, he'll come in even seventh inning against the top of the lineup or the chunk of their lineup, and he'll face the best hitters in that lineup because that's the best matchup. So he's a great closer.
I
He
think
tried
he's
to be in the
good enough to
closer.
be
Oh, 100%. He could be the closer if he
yeah.
wanted to, but I'd rather him come in against a guy like you're not going to see him come into the ninth inning and face like 6, 7, 8 or 8, 9, 1. You're going to see him come in and face 1, 2, 3, 2, 3, 4, 3, 4, 5, someone like that, middle of the lineup, the best hitters. I'd love to see Sir Anthony as a closer too. He was amazing 2 years ago. This year he kind of lost his sinker was a little. He was pulling his
Big if.
sinker. His changeup was bouncing in the dirt, not that good. Um, so you would rather have Orion Kirkering than someone like Emmanuel Clase, who's like an established closer. What is your reasoning on that? I know you're not a huge baseball guy, but we're gonna get you into it this year.
All right, so I like Orion Kirkering because first of all, I totally understand that you might not think he has the stuff, but look, he went up what 3 leagues this year.
Three, yeah.
He moved up 3 leagues in 1 year and was pitching in the World Series, dude. I mean,
Oh,
he was
NLCS,
pitching in.
NLCS.
I don't see it. Oh, all right, my bad. That was my bad, guys. But
Huge
I
difference,
will
huge
say
difference.
that yeah, I know that's a big difference. That's why I apologize. But Kirkering like showed that dude had balls, man. I really think that dude has balls. Like whenever I see Kirkering come out, I know he had the one game, but like he looks like he's ready to go.
Yeah.
He really does. And I think that he could be the guy. Maybe it would be good. Like maybe he could just be like another really, really good guy coming out of the pen and go out and get a guy like Clase.
Hmm.
Um, but I would like to see them maybe try out Kirkering, but I totally understand if they go and get a guy like Clase. What do you think they'd have to trade for a guy like Clase?
So they would have to give up someone to match the salary because Crawford's only making like
Yeah, I know
150K.
he was getting talked
You have
about,
to give up
right? Yeah.
Justin Crawford, who's the Phillies' third best prospect, and 77th overall in the MLB. You'd also have to probably give up like it's hard. Probably like Taiwan Walker. Excuse me, Taiwan Walker, which I would be fine doing if we did sign Jordan Montgomery. But I
Yeah.
mean, you'd probably Justin Crawford, probably another low tier prospect. Someone that won't really play the
Yeah.
next year or two, but could possibly and like blow up, but not nothing crazy. Like not like a top 100, prospect, like Phillies, like 80th or
Not
90th
like
ranked
Andrew Payne.
prospect. No, no, nothing up top at
Okay.
all. Not even the top 50 Phillies prospects, like one of their lower 60, 70, 80 tier prospects. Um, but I think
Gotcha.
what Dombrowski's gonna do is he's gonna test out Orion Kirkring, put him at that closer spot, and then he's basically gonna tell Rob Thompson, I think, test him out, give him the closer role, and if he can't do anything, I'm gonna get you one at the deadline. I'm gonna get you a closer at the deadline in July, which I'm fine with as long as at the end of the day we find someone that can come in the ninth inning and lock it down. I knew every time that Sir Anthony was coming in 2 years ago, he was locking that shit down. Like I knew he is 100 mile an hour sinker, wipeout slider, good changeup. I knew he was coming in locking it down. This year, Craig Kimbrell, it was kind of like you're gonna know by the first batter if he has it or not. He'll be pulling his fastball, he'll be
Yeah.
spiking his curveball, like you're gonna know. So you need someone that can come in and lock it down. He has good pitch mix. He has a changeup, a fastball, a cutter, and a slider, and I don't know if he has curveball, but I know he has a good 4 or 5 pitch mix, 102, 103 mile an hour fastball, 95, 96 mile an hour cutter, like just great stuff. Great whiff chase rates too. A lot of swing and miss, a lot of chase. Like that's just someone you want in your team. You'd rather him be on your team than have to face him in the long run. Someone like Atlanta, I could see
No,
Atlanta
I agree.
making a push for him too. Um, but yeah, I mean that's basically all we have in the Phillies today. Like nothing crazy,
Wait,
just some one more
one
thing.
more thing. How do you feel about um the owner really going after Yamamoto and asking and trying to give like I think they offered him the most out of
We offered him
anybody?
around 350 million. Yeah.
Crazy.
So
What do you think about that?
I love it. I know that there was a very, very high chance that he wouldn't sign here. I 100% knew that we were going to give him the most money because that's just a John Middleton thing to do. Just throw the most money at the best player. He did with Trey, did with Bryce. Just it's the most John Middleton thing to do. However, I knew we wouldn't sign him. Phillies have never signed a Japanese player ever. You can go back to any roster ever. They've never signed a Japanese player ever. Whereas Dodgers, they signed Shohei. They've had forget who their pitcher was. Hyunjin Ryu. Like they've had a lot of Japanese players come over and play for them. Same with the Mets. Um, but I know once Shohei signed with LA that it was kind of like a done deal that Yamamoto is going to go and play with him. They're buddies. They play in the World Classic together, World Baseball Classic together. And I knew that he was going to favor LA over any other team. Now, I did think that maybe the Phillies offering him 25, $30 million more, and he's getting more, he would have got more guaranteed money. He would have got less years on his deal. He would have had an opt out, all
And he
those
loves
things.
Bryce.
Loves Bryce Harper. So I thought that all that stuff combined with Bryce Harper already talking to him at the meeting would have been good. But once I found out that it was over Zoom like this, I was like, He visited LA. He
Yeah.
visited the Mets owner at his house and had dinner with him. And then had a Zoom call with the Phillies. I'm like, okay, that kind of shows where his priorities are. So, I love it. I think next year there's a guy named Rory Sasaki. He's disgusting, like 25 years old, better than
Sweet
Yamamoto.
last name.
Yeah, Rory
Sweet last
Sasaki,
name.
like insane. And also,
Saki.
Juan Soto is a free agent next year. You could probably, I think we get Juan Soto next year because Bryson Trey here. He played with Bryson
Okay.
Trey. Kevin Long's here, his old hitting
Yeah.
coach. I think he comes here next year. So I'm excited for next year, but I'm very excited for this year too. A little optimistic, a little pessimistic at the same time. Well, I think I say I'm more pessimistic than optimistic about this year, but it's the Phils. Anything can happen. So uh
Exactly.
that's our segment on the Phils. A little longer than we expected, but hey, who cares? It's the Phils. We love it.
Hey. All right, guys. Thank you so much for watching. We really appreciate it. Give us a like, subscribe down below. We appreciate it. Come back next week.
I'm back next week for another episode of the Philly Dogs. Appreciate you all
Yep.
watching and all the support. We'll catch you next time. Have a swell day.